Cybersecurity Daily Threat Brief. May 4, 2026 Monday edition. Prepared, 406 PDT Classification, Open Source 10 Topics 7 Subtopics. Author, Jack for educational and informational purposes only. Warning disclaimer. Nothing in this report constitutes legal, medical, financial, or official advice. News is news, not legal, financial, or medical advice. Do not treat the following anecdotal stories as advice. All information is presented for educational and informational purposes only. Consult qualified professionals for any decisions based on topics covered herein. Topic 1. cPanel CVE 2026-41940 Sorry Ransomware Mass Exploitation. A critical authentication bypass vulnerability tracked as CVE 2026-41940 in cPanel and WHM has been under active mass exploitation since late February 2026, initially leveraged as a zero-day before public disclosure. The flaw resides in the authentication handling layer of Panel's web-based management interface, allowing unauthenticated remote attackers to gain full administrative access to hosting servers. Shadow Server Foundation's latest scans have identified at least 44,000 unique IP addresses showing indicators of compromise, a figure that continues to climb daily as scanning and exploitation intensify. Hosting providers worldwide, from small shared hosting companies to mid-tier managed service providers, have been caught in the crossfire, with many discovering intrusions only after ransomware payloads were already deployed. The vulnerability carries a CVSS score in the critical range, and cPanel has released emergency patches, but adoption has been uneven. Security researchers note that the gap between patch availability and patch application has created a window of opportunity that threat actors are aggressively exploiting. Organizations running any version of cPanel and WHM prior to the patched builds are urged to update immediately and audit their systems for signs of compromise. The primary payload being delivered through CVE 2026-41940 exploitation is a ransomware strain dubbed Sorry, a Go-based Linux encryptor that has been purpose-built for server-side environments. Upon execution, Sorry enumerates accessible file systems, targeting databases, website files, email stores, and configuration backups, the lifeblood of any hosting operation. The encryptor employs a hybrid cryptographic scheme combining SHA-20 for symmetric file encryption with RSA-2048 for key wrapping, making decryption without the attacker's private key computationally infeasible. Encrypted files are appended with the distinctive .sorry extension, and ransom notes are dropped in every affected directory under the filename readme.md, a deliberate choice to blend in with legitimate developer files. Victims are instructed to contact the operators exclusively via Talks, the peer-to-peer encrypted messaging protocol, reflecting a broader trend among ransomware gangs toward decentralized, censorship-resistant communication channels. Ransom demands have reportedly varied, with some victims receiving demands calibrated to the perceived size and revenue of their hosting operations. The Sorry ransomware operation does not appear to maintain a public leak site, suggesting it may be operating purely on a pay-to-decrypt model at this stage. The scale of this campaign has prompted coordinated responses from multiple national certs, with advisories issued by CISA, CERT-EU, and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre among others. Incident response firms are reporting a surge in engagement requests specifically tied to Panel-hosted environments, with some firms triaging dozens of cases simultaneously. The exploitation chain is notably efficient: initial access through CVE 2026-41940, lateral movement via Panel's built-in account management features, and ransomware deployment, all automated to minimize dwell time. Hosting providers that did not have offline backups or immutable snapshots have faced catastrophic data loss scenarios, with some unable to recover customer data at all. The incident underscores long-standing concerns about the monoculture risk inherent in the web hosting industry, where a single software platform manages millions of domains. Security teams are advised to not only patch but also to rotate all credentials, review access logs for anomalous administrative actions, and validate the integrity of SSL/TLS certificates issued through Panel's integrated certificate management. This event is likely to accelerate discussions around mandatory security baselines for hosting control panel software. Subtopic: cPanel Sniper POC exploit framework publicly released for CVE 2026-41940. Adding fuel to an already volatile situation, A proof-of-concept exploit framework dubbed cPanel Sniper has been publicly released on GitHub, significantly lowering the barrier to entry for exploiting CVE 2026-41940. The tool, written in Python, automates the full exploitation chain from target discovery through authentication bypass to post-exploitation actions including credential harvesting and reverse shell deployment. Within 48 hours of its publication, security telemetry providers reported a measurable spike in scanning activity targeting cPanel and WHM ports, with traffic patterns consistent with automated tool usage. The framework includes modular components for different post-exploitation objectives, including a deploy module that can push arbitrary payloads including the SARI ransomware to compromised hosts. cPanel Inc. has formally requested the repository's removal, but mirrors and forks have already proliferated across the coding platform and dark web forums. The release of cPanel Sniper follows a familiar and troubling pattern in vulnerability life cycle, where weaponized toolkits transform critical vulnerabilities from targeted threats into opportunistic mass exploitation events. Defenders are urged to assume compromise if patching was delayed and to conduct thorough forensic investigations regardless of whether ransomware was ultimately deployed. Topic 2. AI automated zero-day discovery and exploitation at machine speed. The cybersecurity landscape is being fundamentally reshaped by the emergence of artificial intelligence as a force multiplier for offensive operations, with threat actors now leveraging AI models to discover and exploit zero-day vulnerabilities in minutes rather than the months traditionally required. This paradigm shift was brought into sharp focus by the Game Change campaign, widely regarded as the first fully documented AI-orchestrated cyber-espionage operation, attributed to a Chinese state-backed threat actor. Game Change targeted approximately 70 global entities across defense, telecommunications, and government sectors, demonstrating a level of scale and speed that would be impossible through purely manual operations. The campaign's operators utilized Alibaba's quencoder model, accessed via the Hugging Face API, for real-time command generation, vulnerability analysis, and adaptive exploitation, effectively creating an AI co-pilot for their intrusion operations. Intelligence analysts describe Game Change as a watershed moment, marking the transition from AI as a theoretical threat to AI as an operational weapon in the cyber domain. The implications extend beyond espionage, as the techniques pioneered in Game Change are being adopted and adapted by financially motivated threat actors and hacktivist groups. The speed at which AI can iterate through attack strategies, generate polymorphic payloads, and adapt to defensive measures fundamentally challenges traditional detection and response timelines. Beyond Game Change, multiple additional AI-powered malware families have been documented in active campaigns throughout early 2026, signaling that this is not an isolated development but an emerging norm. Multi-Terminal, an AI-augmented remote access tool, uses natural language processing to interpret high-level attacker instructions and translate them into platform-specific exploit sequences across Windows, Linux, and Mac OS environments. JSOUTMIT, another recently documented family, employs generative AI to produce unique JavaScript-based payloads for each target, effectively defeating signature-based detection by ensuring no two deployments share identical code patterns. These tools represent a new class of thinking malware that can assess defensive environments, select optimal attack vectors, and modify behavior in real time without human intervention. Security vendors are scrambling to update their detection methodologies, with several major endpoint detection and response platforms announcing AI versus AI defensive capabilities. The arms race between offensive and defensive AI is accelerating, and the asymmetry currently favors attackers who can leverage commercial AI models without the constraints that defenders face in deploying automated response actions. Threat intelligence teams are increasingly allocating resources to monitor AI model marketplaces, open-source repositories, and underground forums for indicators of AI-augmented tooling development. In recognition of the evolving threat landscape, MITRE expanded its ATT&CK framework in February 2025 to incorporate techniques and tactics specific to AI-orchestrated operations, providing defenders with a structured vocabulary for understanding and categorizing these new threats. The updated framework includes new technique identifiers for AI-assisted reconnaissance, AI-generated social engineering content, machine speed exploitation, and adaptive command and control protocols. Security operations centers are being urged to recalibrate their detection rules and response playbooks to account for the compressed timelines associated with AI-driven attacks, where the window between initial access and objective completion may be measured in minutes rather than days. Red team and blue team exercises are incorporating adversary simulations to stress organizational defense against this new threat paradigm. Regulatory bodies in the United States, European Union, and Asia-Pacific region are beginning to grapple with the policy implications, including whether the use of AI in offensive cyber operations should be subject to arms control frameworks. The private sector is responding with increased investment in AI-native security platforms that can match the speed and adaptability of AI-driven threats. This topic will remain at the forefront of cybersecurity discourse as the capabilities of offensive and defensive continue at all their rapid pace. Topic 3. Instructure. Canvas. Data breach hunters claims responsibility. EdTech giant Instructure, the company behind the widely used Canvas learning management system, has confirmed that significant cyber attack resulting in theft-sensitive data affecting students, educators, and institutional administrators. The breach was claimed by Shiny Hunters, a prolific extortion in the well-documented history of targeting large-scale data repositories across technology, e-commerce, and education sectors. Shiny Hunters is known for its sophisticated initial access techniques, often exploiting misconfigured cloud environments, stolen API keys, and third-party integrations to gain entry to target networks. The stolen data reportedly includes names, email addresses, student ID numbers, and user messages exchanged within the Canvas platform, raising significant privacy concerns for the millions of users across K-12 and higher education institutions that rely on Canvas daily. Instructure has stated that it is working with law enforcement and third-party forensic investigators to determine the full scope of the breach and identify the specific attack vector exploited. In the interim, the company has implemented additional security controls and is notifying affected institutions and individuals in accordance with applicable data breach notification laws. The incident has reignited debate about the security posture of educational technology platforms, which have become critical infrastructure in the post-pandemic educational landscape. The operational impact of the breach extended beyond data theft, with Shiny Hunters reportedly disrupting Canvas services for a period during the attack, affecting access to coursework, grading systems, and communication tools during a critical point in the academic calendar. The threat actors have threatened to publicly leak the stolen data if their extortion demands are not met, a tactic consistent with Shiny Hunters' established playbook of combining data theft with public pressure campaigns. Educational institutions are particularly vulnerable to this type of extortion because data involves student records, academic communications, and personally identifiable information subject to stringent regulatory protections under frameworks of SERPA in the United States and GDPR in Europe. The potential for regular penalties, reputational damage, and litigation creates significant leverage for hackers, even when the data itself may not have direct financial value on underground markets. Instructors stock price experienced volatility in the immediate aftermath of the disclosure, reflecting investor concern about both the direct costs of incident response and the potential for customer attrition. Several universities have publicly stated they are reviewing their contracts with Instructure and evaluating alternative LMS platforms, though switching costs and education are notoriously high. Shiny Hunters continues to operate with multiple attack and targeting its Instructure and over the last 2 years. The Instructure breach serves as a stark reminder that the education sector remains one of the most targeted and leading sources of cybersecurity, with institutions often lacking dedicated security operations capabilities commensurate with the sensitivity of data they hold. Canvas serves 30 million users public across thousands of institutions, making it a high-value target to compromise cascading applications across the entire education ecosystem. Security researchers have noted that the education technology supply chain presents unique challenges, as LMS platforms integrate with dozens of third-party tools, single sign-on providers, and student information systems, each representing a potential attack surface. Incident response guidance issued by the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, MSISAC, recommends that affected institutions set all cancer-related credentials, third-party integrations, and monitor phishing campaigns leveraging the stolen data, which has all prompted calls for mandatory security audit sectors before they are approved for use in educational settings. I'm sure some school districts and university systems have already been implementing. Parents, students, and educators are advised to be vigilant for targeted information for stolen data set to craft convincing lists. Instructure deploys free identity monitoring services to affect individuals and to publish data posted in the report once the investigation concludes. Subtopics 15-year-old detained in France over agency data breach. In a related development highlighting the diverse threat actor landscape, French authorities have detained a 15-year-old individual in connection with a data breach targeting ANTS, Agence Nationale des Titers Sécurisés, the French government agency responsible for issuing national identity documents, passports, and vehicle registrations. The juvenile suspect allegedly exploited a vulnerability in a public-facing web application to attract personal data belonging to French citizens, including names, dates of birth, addresses, and document reference numbers. French cybercrime investigators from the Atlantic Office Centre de lutte contre la criminalité auxiliary technology to information et de la communication traced the intrusion through a combination of server logs and digital forensics on the suspect's devices. The case underscores the growing trend of juvenile involvement in cybercrime, driven by the accessibility of hacking tools, online tutorials, and the low prosecution for minors. French prosecutors are navigating a complex legal framework governing juvenile cybercrime, balancing accountability with rehabilitation under French law, which emphasizes educational measures for offenders under 18. The ANTS breach has prompted the French government to accelerate a planned security audit of all citizen-facing government digital services, with a particular focus on exploiting their vulnerabilities. This incident, alongside the Instructure breach, illustrates the data theft threats and the full scope of active execution, from state-sponsored groups and organized cyber criminals to operating individuals operating from their bedrooms. Topic 4. Microsoft Defender surface vulnerability crisis. A faulty security intelligence stage to Microsoft Defender and widespread operational disruption across enterprise environment by incorrectly logging legit certificates malicious, specific lifetime instruction 32/CERT PHA. The false positive affected organizations globally, triggering automated threat response actions that in many cases quarantined or outright removed the DG Cert root certificates from Windows certificate stores. DigiCert is one of the world's largest certificate authorities, and its root certificates are embedded in trust chains of millions of websites, code signing certificates, email encryption systems, and enterprise VPN solutions, making their removal had cascading effects across critical business operations. Some administrators reported that false positive emphasis flooded high-severity alerts in their security consoles, consuming instant response resources and creating confusion about whether a genuine supply chain attack was underway. The incident compounded impact, as many organizations initially treated the alerts as a potential real compromise, initiating full incident response procedures but the root cause identified. Microsoft acknowledged the issue and released a corrected security intelligence update, but organizations where certificates had already been moved. Remediation required manual reloading of root certificates. The incident highlights the inherent tension in automated threat response systems, where the speed that makes them effective against real threats also amplifies the damage caused by false positives. The downstream effects of the DigiCert certificate removal were severe and varied across affected organizations, depending on their specific technology stacks and the degree to which automated remediation actions were enabled. Organizations relying on DigiCert issued certificates for mutual TLS authentication and microservice architectures experienced third outages as internal communications between components were suddenly untrusted. Code signing workflows were disrupted as pipeline failed to validate signatures on compiled copies, halting software release processes at multiple technology companies. Email encryption and dual signature systems using /microservice exchange to DigiCert stopped functioning, causing bounce messages and failed signature verifications in sectors where encrypted data was mandated, including healthcare and financial services. VPN concentrators that validated client certificates against DigiCert routes rejected legitimate connections, locking remote workers out of corporate networks during business hours. The incident revealed the fragility of the certificate trust model, where removal of a single root certificate can propagate failures across an organization's entire digital infrastructure. Security teams spent hours triaging the alerts, coordinating with Microsoft support, and manually restoring certificate stores, with some organizations reporting that full remediation took over 24 hours. Microsoft committed to conducting a root cause analysis and publishing a post-incident report detailing the sequence of events that led to the erroneous classification, including the specific signatures and heuristics that triggered the false detection. The committee has also published reviewed quality assurance processes for security intelligence updates, particularly the testing protocols for updates that affect system-level trust components such as certificate stores. DigiCert issued its own advisory to customers, providing step-by-step instructions for verifying and restoring affected root certificates and recommending that organizations implement monitoring for unexpected changes to their certificate trust stores. Industry analysts have noted that this incident, while not a security breach for SE, may cause more aggregate operational disruption than many actual cyber attacks, given the breadth of systems affected. The event is likely to accelerate enterprise adoption of certificate lifecycle management platforms that can detect and alert on unauthorized certificates or modifications in real time. It also raises questions about the appropriate level of automation and endpoint security, particularly for actions that modify foundational trust components. Security architects are advised to review their defender for endpoint policies to ensure that certificate-related detections trigger alert-only responses rather than automated remediation, pending manual verification. Topic 5. Email bombing and fake IT support calls fuel Microsoft Teams phishing. A sophisticated and increasingly prevalent attack methodology combining email bombing with fraudulent IT support outreach via Microsoft Teams is delivering devastating results for threat actors, with S&Tire's 2026 annual cyber threat report documenting a 72% success rate for these social engineering campaigns across observed engagements. The attack chain begins with email bombing the rapid delivery of thousands of subscription confirmations, newsletters, IPS, and server notifications to target inbox within a short time frame, overwhelming them with seemingly legitimate but unwanted messages. While the victim is distracted and frustrated by the email outage, the attacker initiates contact through Microsoft Teams, posing as a support representative from the victim's organization and offering to help resolve an email issue. This tool helps exploits the inherent trust that employees place in internal community platforms like Teams, where messages from parent colleagues or IT staff are treated with far less suspicion of external emails. The attackers demonstrate detailed knowledge of the target organization's IT infrastructure, referencing specific help desk ticket systems, software configurations, and organizational terminology to enhance their credibility. Once trust is established, the attacker persuades the victim to grant remote access using legitimate tools such as Quick Assist, built into Windows, or any desk, at which point the attack transitions from the direct hands-on keyboard intrusion. The entire sequence from initially emailing the remote attack to complete in under 30 minutes, a timeline that often outpaces security operations center detection and response capabilities. Multiple threat actors have moved to these campaigns, including Static Fighter, also known as UNC3944/0octopus, Payout Sting, and UNC6692, each bringing distinct operational characteristics but converging on the same core methodology. Scattered Spider, in particular, has refined this technique into a highly repeatable playbook that has been shared within this network of loosely affiliated English-speaking operatives. Once remote access is established, attackers have been observed using WinSCP for targeted data exfiltration, focusing on financial documents, intellectual property, customer databases, and stored browser files and password managers. In several documented cases, attackers regress from initial access to domain compromise within hours, leveraging harvested credentials and cryptographic techniques to escalate privileges across Active Directory environments. The infrastructure supporting these campaigns relies heavily on bulletproof hosting providers that are resistant to law enforcement takedown efforts, including NTelecom, Titan TV, and Global Connectivity Solutions LLP, all which have been repeatedly cited in threat intelligence report for hosting command and control infrastructure. Empires report notes that traditional awareness during logging in FPS attack pattern because the social engineering through a trust internal channel rather than mill, and PTech IT support resolving real invisible problems is inherently illegal. Organizations are advised to implement strict external access policies for Microsoft Teams, disable Quick Assist on endpoints where it is not operationally required, and establish verified callback procedures for all IT support interactions. The financial and operational impact of successful attack using the methodology has been substantial, with multiple publicly reported incidents resulting in ransomware deployment, multi-million-dollar wire fraud, and significant data breaches across financial services, technology, and healthcare organizations. The 72% success rate documented by East Tire is particularly alarming because it represents a dramatically higher conversion rate than traditional phishing, which typically achieves 6 rates in single digits in organizations with security awareness programs. Defenders are finding that the combination of email bombing volume and teams-based social engineering creates a cognitive overload that weak secure non-assembled provisions under pressure. Security operations centers are adapting by implementing automated detection rules, or splicing email with concurrent team content involving internal tenants, generate priority alerts for immediate investigation. Microsoft responded by rolling out administrative controls to internal access, including a build to restrict external messaging to group domains and to black conversation where screening or access tools are referenced. Industry working groups are developing standardized indicators of compromise and threat intelligence sharing formats specific to this attack pattern, recognizing that its cross-platform nature makes it difficult to detect using a single sector in isolation. The evolution of this attack methodology represents a broader trend toward layer attacks that exploit trust relationships and code devices rather than single vulnerabilities. Subtopics with AI discovered under development. Security researchers identified a new feature named Blookit that incorporates an AI-powered assistant designed to dynamically customize phishing pages in real time based on the victim's browser fingerprint, geolocation, and organizational affiliation. Although Blookit is reportedly still under active development and has not yet been widely deployed, its architecture represents a significant evolution in phishing kit sophistication, moving the stack-based cloning toward adaptive, context-aware social engineering scale. The AI assistant component, which the developers are marketing on underground forums, can generate missing login pages for over 200 cloud services by querying the database UI templates and branding, language, and layout dynamically. Preliminary analysis suggests that Blookit's backend infrastructure is designed to integrate with popular phishing as a service platforms, potentially enabling even low-skill operators to deploy enhanced phishing campaigns. The kit includes built-in page techniques such as bot detection and automated blocking of security researcher key ranges in known sandboxing environments. Blookit's development timeline, based on commit history observed on a private repository, suggests that the production-ready version could emerge within weeks. Security teams are advised to monitor some infrastructure indicators and to ensure that their anti-phishing solutions include behavioral analysis capabilities and detect dynamically generated pages that may not match known phishing page signatures. Topic 6. Critical MOE automated vulnerabilities and authentication bypass. Progress software has issued a critical security bulletin addressing two highly severe vulnerabilities in its MOE automation platform, both which enable authentication bypass that allow unauthenticated attached to gain administrative control over affected deployments. The vulnerabilities, which affect the platform's task schedule and API authentication mechanisms, were discovered during a coordinated security audit and have been assigned CVSS scores in the critical range. MOE brought its carry significant historical baggage in the cybersecurity community following the catastrophic 2023 MOVE transfer exploitation campaign attributed to the CL0P ransomware group, which compromised hundreds of organizations and exposed the data of tens of millions of individuals. The new vulnerabilities in MOE automation are related but distinct product used for automating file transfer workflows, particularly concerned because automation deployments often have broad access to sensitive data flows and may operate with elevated privilege across enterprise networks. Progress Software has released patch versions and urging all customers to update immediately, emphasizing that no workarounds are available and that the vulnerabilities are exploitable remotely without any form of authentication. The company has stated that it has no evidence of exploitation in the wild at the time of disclosure, but given the intense scrutiny that MOE products receive from both security researchers and threat actors, the window for proactive patching is expected to be narrow. Organizations running MOE automation are advised to prioritize patching, restrict network access to the platform's management interfaces, and implement enhanced monitoring for anomalous authentication patterns. The timing of this disclosure is notable in the context of the ISA's concurrent urgent warning about the cPanel WHM vulnerability, CE 2026-41940, being actively exploited in attacks, creating a dual-front patching challenge for security teams managing diverse infrastructure environments. CISA has added the cPanel vulnerability to its known exploited vulnerabilities, GAV, catalog with a mandated remediation deadline for federal agencies, and while the MOE automation vulnerabilities have not yet been added to the GAV, security professionals expect this to change rapidly if exploitation is detected. The convergence of critical vulnerabilities in both hosting infrastructure, cPanel, and enterprise file transfer automation, MOE, platforms highlights the persistent challenge of securing the software supply chain, particularly for products that serve infrastructure-level dependencies across thousands of organizations. Security teams are being forced to make difficult prioritization decisions, balancing the immediate threat of active email exploitation against the potential threat of MOE automation exploitation, all while maintaining their operational responsibilities. Progress Software has established a dedicated incident response hotline for MOE automation customers and is offering complimentary vulnerability assessments to organizations that are unable to patch immediately. The company has also announced plans to accelerate secure by design initiatives, including mandatory code audits for all authentication-related code paths across its product portfolio. This latest MOE disclosure will likely reinforce calls for enterprise software vendors to adopt more rigorous security development lifecycle practices and to invest in proactive vulnerability discovery programs. For organizations operating in regulated industries, the MOE automation vulnerabilities present additional compliance dimension. Many of these deployments handle data subject to HIPAA, PCI DSS, SOX, or GDPR requirements, and an authentication bypass could constitute a reportable security incident even absent confirmed data access. Managed file transfer platforms are frequently identified as critical assets in risk assessments, and their compromise can undermine the integrity of entire data governance frameworks. Security architects are recommending that organizations implement defense in-depth controls around their MOE automation deployments, including network segmentation, privileged access management, and continuous monitoring through SIEM integration. The broader managed file transfer market is experiencing a reckoning as organizations reassess the risk-reward calculus of centralized file transfer platforms that, by design, concentrate sensitive data flows through a small number of highly privileged systems. Some enterprises are exploring decentralized alternatives, including end-to-end encrypted file sharing solutions that distribute risk rather than concentrating it. The MOE vulnerabilities also underscore the importance of maintaining comprehensive asset inventories that include not just primary applications but also their automation, orchestration, and integration components. Defenders should treat this disclosure as an opportunity to review their overall managed file transfer security posture, not just as a point-in-time patching exercise. Topic 7. U.S. military signs AI deals with 7 major tech companies. The United States Department of Defense has announced landmark agreements with 7 major technology companies: Google, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Reflection, and SpaceX to provide artificial intelligence resources and capabilities for military applications, marking a significant escalation in the integration of commercial AI into national defense operations. The deals, negotiated through the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office, CDAO, are designed to augment warfighter decision-making in complex operational environments, including battlefield situational awareness, logistics optimization, intelligence analysis, and electronic warfare. Under the agreements, classified military systems will gain access to commercial AI capabilities through purpose-built secure enclaves that meet the stringent requirements of the Department of Defense's Impact Level 6 Cloud Security Framework. The announcement has generated substantial debate across the defense, technology, and policy communities, with proponents arguing that commercial AI integration is essential to maintaining strategic advantage against near-peer adversaries who are investing heavily in military AI capabilities. Critics have raised concerns about the ethical implications of deploying commercial AI systems in lethal decision-making contexts, the risks of algorithmic bias in targeting and intelligence analysis, and the potential for AI system failures in contested electromagnetic environments where adversaries may attempt to degrade or deceive AI models. The Department of Defense has emphasized that all AI deployments will adhere to its existing ethical principles for artificial intelligence, which require human oversight of consequential decisions, testing and evaluation for bias, and transparent documentation of AI system capabilities and limitations. Each of the 7 companies will maintain dedicated military liaison teams responsible for ensuring that deployed AI capabilities remain aligned with operational requirements and ethical guidelines. The agreements also include provisions for red teaming and adversarial testing of AI systems before deployment, recognizing that military AI systems will face sophisticated adversaries actively attempting to exploit their vulnerabilities. Privacy advocates have expressed concern about the potential for military AI capabilities to be redirected toward domestic surveillance applications, a scenario that the DoD has explicitly stated falls outside the scope of these agreements. Congressional oversight committees have requested detailed briefings on the agreements and are expected to include AI-specific reporting requirements in the next National Defense Authorization Act. From a cybersecurity perspective, the integration of commercial AI into classified military systems creates a novel and complex attack surface that adversaries will aggressively target for espionage, sabotage, and manipulation. Supply chain integrity is a paramount concern, as poisoned training data, backdoored model weights, or compromised inference pipelines could subtly degrade AI-assisted decision-making in ways that may be difficult to detect during normal operations. The agreements reportedly include rigorous provenance and integrity verification requirements for all AI models deployed in military contexts, including continuous monitoring for model drift and adversarial perturbation. The convergence of commercial AI and military operations also raises questions about the applicability of existing cybersecurity frameworks, as traditional network defense paradigms may not adequately address threats to AI-specific attack vectors such as prompt injection, data poisoning, and model extraction. Each participating company is required to maintain dedicated security operations capabilities focused specifically on protecting the integrity of their military AI deployments. The agreements establish a joint public-private AI security working group that will develop and publish best practices for securing AI systems in adversarial environments. The broader implications of these deals will unfold over years, but they represent a definitive inflection point in the relationship between Silicon Valley and the Pentagon, with consequences that will be felt across the global security landscape. Subtopic: Cisco releases open-source tool for AI model provenance. In a development directly relevant to the security challenges highlighted by the military AI agreements, Cisco has released an open-source tool designed to address AI model provenance and supply chain integrity, enabling organizations to verify the origin, training data lineage, and modification history of AI models before deployment. The tool, which Cisco has named Model Trace, implements a cryptographic chain of custody framework that generates and verifies digital signatures at each stage of the AI model lifecycle, from initial training through fine-tuning, quantization, and deployment. Model Trace is designed to detect indicators of model poisoning, unauthorized modification, and supply chain tampering threats that have moved from theoretical to practical as organizations increasingly rely on pre-trained models sourced from public repositories and third-party vendors. The tool integrates with popular AI development frameworks including PyTorch, TensorFlow, and Hugging Face transformers, and can be incorporated into CI/CD pipelines to automate provenance verification as part of the model deployment process. Cisco developed Model Trace in collaboration with academic researchers specializing in adversarial machine learning and has submitted the underlying methodology for peer review. The release has been welcomed by the AI security community, which has long identified model provenance as a critical gap in the AI supply chain security landscape, with existing tools focused primarily on code-level dependencies rather than model-level integrity. Organizations deploying AI in security-sensitive contexts including the military applications described in the DOT agreements are encouraged to evaluate Model Trace as part of their AI governance and risk management frameworks. Topic 8. Salt Typhoon breaches IBM subsidiary in Italy. Chinese state-sponsored advanced persistent threat group Salt Typhoon has been confirmed as the perpetrator behind a significant breach of an IBM subsidiary operating in Italy, marking another escalation in the group's sustained campaign targeting Western technology infrastructure and telecommunications networks across Europe and North America. Salt Typhoon, also tracked by various security vendors as Ghost Emperor and Famous Sparrow, has been one of the most active and capable Chinese cyber-espionage groups operating in 2025 to 2026, with a particular focus on telecommunications providers, managed service providers, and technology companies that serve as conduits to high-value downstream targets. The Italian subsidiary, which provides IT consulting and managed infrastructure services to European enterprise and government clients, represents a strategic target whose compromise could provide Salt Typhoon with access to a broad ecosystem of client environments. Italian intelligence services, in coordination with IBM's corporate security team and the Italian National Cybersecurity Agency (ACN), have been leading the investigation and have confirmed that the attackers maintained persistent access for an extended period before detection. The breach was discovered through anomalous network traffic patterns identified by an Italian telecommunications provider that shares threat intelligence with the ACN. Salt Typhoon's tradecraft in this intrusion reportedly included the use of living off-the-land techniques, legitimate remote administration tools, and custom implants designed to evade endpoint detection solutions deployed within IBM's subsidiary environment. The incident has prompted IBM to initiate a comprehensive security review across all of its European operations, including enhanced monitoring, credential rotation, and network segmentation hardening. The breach carries significant implications for Europe's digital defense posture, as it demonstrates that even subsidiaries of major global technology companies can be successfully targeted by state-sponsored actors, undermining the assumption that Tier 1 technology vendors provide an inherent security guarantee. European Union cybersecurity officials have expressed concern that the IBM subsidiary breach may be part of a broader Salt Typhoon campaign targeting managed service providers across the continent, using them as pivot points to access the networks of their clients in government, defense, energy, and financial services sectors. This supply chain approach, compromising a trusted technology partner to gain access to multiple downstream targets, has become Salt Typhoon's signature methodology, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of the interconnected nature of modern enterprise IT ecosystems. The European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, has issued a threat advisory urging all managed service providers operating within the EU to conduct immediate threat hunting exercises focused on Salt Typhoon's known indicators of compromise and behavioral patterns. The diplomatic fallout from the breach is also significant, adding to growing tensions between China and Western nations over state-sponsored cyber operations and potentially accelerating European efforts to reduce dependency on technology supply chains that traverse geopolitical boundaries. Italy's response has been notably forceful, with the ACN publicly attributing the attack to Salt Typhoon, a step that many European nations have historically been reluctant to take. The breach is expected to feature prominently in discussions at the upcoming EU Cybersecurity Summit and may influence pending legislation on supply chain security requirements for technology vendors operating within the European market. For cybersecurity practitioners, the Salt Typhoon breach of IBM's Italian subsidiary provides actionable intelligence about the group's evolving tactics, techniques, and procedures. Defenders should pay particular attention to Salt Typhoon's documented use of compromised edge devices including routers, firewalls, and VM appliances, initial access hackers, and persistent footholds, a technique that bypasses traditional endpoint detection by operating below the visibility threshold of most security monitoring tools. The group has also been observed leveraging legitimate cloud services for command and control communications, blending malicious traffic with normal business operations to evade network-level detection. Organizations that are customers of managed service providers, regardless of the provider's size or reputation, should implement zero-trust principles that limit the access granted to external IT management partners and continuously monitor for anomalous activity originating from provider connections. The incident reinforces the importance of contractual security requirements in vendor relationships, including mandatory breach notification timelines, regular penetration testing, and the right to audit. IBM has stated that it is cooperating fully with all relevant authorities and is committed to transparency about the incident's scope and impact of the investigation purposes. The Salt Typhoon campaign, of which this breach is one component, remains one of the most significant and persistent cyber espionage threats facing Western nations and their technology ecosystems. Subtopic: Trellix confirms source code repository breach. Cybersecurity vendor Trellix has confirmed that hackers gained unauthorized access to one of its source code repositories, raising immediate concerns about the integrity of the company's security products and the potential for supply chain attacks targeting Trellix's extensive customer base across enterprise and government sectors. Trellix, formed from the merger of McAfee Enterprise and FireEye, is a major provider of endpoint detection and response, email security, and network security solutions deployed across thousands of organizations worldwide, making its source code a high-value target for both espionage and attack enablement purposes. The company has stated that the compromised repository contained code for a specific product module rather than the entirety of its product suite, and that it has found no evidence that production builds were tampered with. However, security researchers noted that even partial source code access could enable adversaries to identify vulnerabilities in Trellix products, develop targeted evasion techniques, or craft convincing fraudulent updates. Trellix has engaged third-party forensic investigators and has implemented additional access controls, multi-factor authentication requirements, and integrity monitoring across its development infrastructure. The company is conducting a comprehensive review of all code commits and build artifacts to verify that no unauthorized modifications were introduced during the period of unauthorized access. Customers are advised to verify the cryptographic signatures of all Trellix product updates and to monitor Trellix's security advisories for any additional guidance as the investigation progresses. Topic 9. Massive Facebook account dumping phishing campaign. Security researchers at Guardio Labs have uncovered a massive phishing campaign dubbed account dumping that has compromised approximately 30,000 Facebook accounts worldwide, leveraging a sophisticated infrastructure built on legitimate cloud platforms to evade detection and maximize reach. The campaign has been attributed to Vietnamese linked threat actors, consistent with a well-documented pattern of Vietnam-based cybercriminal groups targeting Facebook accounts for advertising fraud, page hijacking, and credential harvesting at scale. Account dumpling's distinguishing characteristic is the use of legitimate platforms, specifically Blacksheet for hosting FormLogic, Netlify for serving convincing Facebook login clone pages, and Telegram for real-time credential exfiltration and operator command and control. By leveraging these trusted platforms, the attackers effectively bypass domain reputation filters, SSL certificate warnings, and URL-based detection mechanisms that form the first line of defense in most organizations' anti-phishing technology stacks. The phishing lures are distributed through Facebook Messenger, Facebook group posts, and comment spam, typically disguised as content violation notices, account verification requirements, or exclusive content unlock pages. Victims who enter their credentials on the phishing pages see their information immediately exfiltrated to a Telegram bot operated by the attackers, who then use automated scripts to log into the compromised accounts, change recovery information, and begin monetization activities within minutes. The speed and scale of the operation suggest a high degree of automation, with the attackers capable of processing thousands of compromised accounts per day. The monetization strategies employed by the account dumping operators are diverse and well organized, reflecting the maturity of the Vietnamese cybercriminal ecosystem's Facebook-focused operations. Compromised accounts with established advertising capabilities are immediately exploited to run fraudulent ad campaigns, typically promoting cryptocurrency scams, counterfeit goods, or malware-laced applications, burning through the victim's linked payment methods before the fraud is detected and the ad account is suspended. Accounts with large followings or administrative access to popular Facebook pages are hijacked and repurposed for influence operations, scam promotion, or resold on underground markets where established Facebook accounts command premium prices. Personal accounts without advertising or page access are harvested for their contact lists and personal information, which are used to craft highly targeted spear phishing campaigns against the victim's friends and family. Guardio Labs analysis revealed that the account dumpling infrastructure is modular and resilient, with the operators maintaining a portfolio of interchangeable phishing domains, AppSheet projects, and Telegram bots that can be rapidly rotated in response to takedown actions. The researchers identified multiple waves of the campaign, each using slightly modified phishing page designs and lure narratives, suggesting continuous A/B testing to optimize conversion rates. Meta's security team has been notified and has taken action against known account dumpling infrastructure, but the distributed nature of the campaign across multiple legitimate platforms makes comprehensive takedown challenging. Users are strongly advised to enable two-factor authentication on their Facebook accounts and to treat any message requesting credential entry through an external link with extreme suspicion. The account dumpling campaign highlights several systemic challenges in combating phishing at platform scale, particularly the abuse of legitimate cloud services as phishing infrastructure. Google AppSheet, Netlify, and similar platforms provide free or low-cost hosting with trusted domain names, SSL certificates, and high availability, all attributes that lend credibility to phishing pages and frustrate traditional detection methods. Platform providers are increasingly recognizing their role in the phishing ecosystem and implementing abuse detection mechanisms, but the scale of legitimate usage on these platforms makes it difficult to identify and remove malicious projects without impacting genuine users. The Vietnamese cybercriminal groups behind account dumpling and similar campaigns have demonstrated remarkable persistence and adaptability, continuously evolving their tactics in response to defensive measures and platform security improvements. Law enforcement cooperation between Vietnam and the countries where victims are located remains limited, creating an enforcement gap that these groups exploit. The campaign's success also reflects the ongoing challenge of user education around phishing, as the lures used by account dumpling are often indistinguishable from legitimate Facebook communications to average users. Security researchers recommend that platform providers implement stricter abuse monitoring for accounts and projects that exhibit phishing-like behavioral patterns, including rapid creation and deletion cycles, unusual geographic access patterns, and high volumes of credential-like data submissions. Subtopic: Telegram mini apps abused for crypto scams, brand impersonation, and Android malware delivery. In a related development within the messaging platform threat landscape, researchers have documented a surge in the abuse of Telegram mini apps, lightweight web applications that run within the Telegram client, for cryptocurrency scams, brand impersonation, and Android malware delivery, exploiting the trust that users place in content accessed through the Telegram interface. Telegram mini apps, introduced as a legitimate feature to enable interactive experiences within chats and channels, provide threat actors with a powerful delivery mechanism that inherits Telegram's trusted branding and bypasses many traditional web-based security controls. Documented scam campaigns include fake cryptocurrency exchanges, fraudulent NFT minting platforms, and impersonation of legitimate DeFi protocols, all presented through polished mini-app interfaces that are difficult for average users to distinguish from legitimate services. Android malware delivery through mini-apps typically involves prompting users to download a required update or verification app that is actually a banking Trojan or information stealer, leveraging the mini-apps in Telegram context to lend credibility to the download prompt. The abuse has been particularly prevalent in cryptocurrency-focused Telegram communities, where users are accustomed to interacting with DeFi applications and may have lower suspicion thresholds for financial transaction requests originating within the Telegram ecosystem. Telegram has implemented some content moderation measures for mini-apps, but the scale of the platform and the ease of creating new mini-apps means that malicious applications often remain active for extended periods before detection and removal. Users are advised to exercise extreme caution when interacting with Telegram mini-apps that request financial transactions, cryptocurrency wallet connections, or app downloads, and to independently verify the legitimacy of any service through official channels before engaging. Topic 10. FreeBSD DHCP Client Critical Vulnerability, CVE 2026-42511. CVE 2026-42511. Topic 10. FreeBSD DHCP Client Critical Vulnerability, CVE 2026-42511. The FreeBSD project has released a critical security advisory addressing CVE 2026-42511, a severe vulnerability in the default IPv4 DHCP client that allows remote attackers to achieve arbitrary code execution with root privileges on affected systems by sending specially crafted DHCP responses. The vulnerability resides in the parsing logic for DHCP option fields, where an integer overflow condition can be triggered by a malicious DHCP server or man-in-the-middle attacker, leading to a heap-based buffer overflow that is reliably exploitable. Because client runs as root by default and is invoked automatically during network interface configuration on virtually all FreeBSD installations, the attack surface is both broad and privileged, requiring no authentication and no user interaction. The vulnerability affects all supported FreeBSD releases prior to the patched versions, and given FreeBSD's widespread use in network appliances, firewalls, storage systems, embedded devices, and hosting infrastructure, the potential impact is substantial. Exploitation requires the attacker to be positioned on the same network segment as the target or to control a DHCP server that the target queries, which narrows the attack vector compared to remotely exploitable vulnerabilities but is highly relevant in shared hosting environments, corporate networks, and public Wi-Fi scenarios. The FreeBSD security team has released patches and updated binary packages, and administrators are urged to update immediately or implement compensating controls such as static IP configuration where DHCP is not operationally required. Security researchers have noted that the vulnerability's characteristics root-level execution, reliable exploitation, and broad default exposure make it an attractive target for exploit development, and weaponized exploits are expected to emerge rapidly. The implications of CVE 2026-42511 extend beyond traditional FreeBSD server deployments to encompass the extensive ecosystem of network appliances and embedded systems that are built on FreeBSD, many of which may have extended patching timelines or lack automated update mechanisms entirely. Products from major networking vendors including Juniper Networks, Junos OS, NetApp, ONTAP, and numerous firewall and NAS appliance manufacturers are built on FreeBSD foundations and may be affected, pending vendor-specific assessments and advisory publications. The embedded and appliance context is particularly concerning because these devices often operate on network segments where they receive DHCP assignments automatically, and their administrators may not have direct access to apply FreeBSD-level patches independently of vendor-issued firmware updates. Organizations are advised to inventory all FreeBSD-based assets, including those that may not be immediately obvious as FreeBSD systems, and to implement network-level protections such as DHCP snooping and dynamic ARP inspection on switches serving segments where vulnerable systems operate. The vulnerability also highlights the ongoing security challenges associated with network bootstrapping protocols like DHCP, which were designed in an era when network-level trust was assumed and have limited built-in authentication or integrity mechanisms. The FreeBSD security team's response has been prompt and transparent, with a detailed advisory that includes not only patched versions but also a technical analysis of the vulnerability's root cause and exploitation mechanics. Administrators of FreeBSD-based infrastructure should treat this as a highest priority patching action and should monitor vendor security advisories for downstream products that may require separate remediation. The disclosure of CVE 2026-42511 arrives against a backdrop of intensifying ransomware activity, with independent tracking data recording 871 confirmed ransomware victims across 88 active ransomware groups during April 2026 alone, underscoring the relentless pace of the threat landscape and the importance of maintaining rigorous patch management discipline. Critical infrastructure vulnerabilities like CVE 2026-42511, if left unpatched, provide ransomware operators and initial access brokers with precisely the type of reliable, high-privilege exploitation capabilities they seek to establish footholds in target environments. The convergence of a critical FreeBSD vulnerability with the ongoing cPanel exploitation campaign, Topic 1, and the MOVE automation vulnerabilities, Topic 6, creates a particularly challenging period for infrastructure security teams managing heterogeneous environments. Defenders are advised to adopt a risk-based prioritization approach, focusing first on systems that are exposed to untrusted networks and that handle sensitive data or provide critical services. The FreeBSD community's open and collaborative approach to security response, including the public availability of technical details and patches, stands as a model for responsible vulnerability disclosure in the open-source ecosystem. Network security teams should use this advisory as a catalyst to review their broader DHCP security posture, including the implementation of DHCP guard features, network segmentation between trusted and untrusted zones, and monitoring for anomalous DHCP traffic patterns. The ongoing vigilance required to defend against the current threat landscape demands that organizations maintain current patching, comprehensive asset visibility, and rapid response capabilities across all layers of their technology stacks. Subtopic: 871 ransomware victims recorded in April 2026 across 88 active groups. Independent ransomware tracking platforms have documented a total of 871 confirmed ransomware victims during April 2026, distributed across 88 distinct active ransomware groups, representing a significant and sustained level of global ransomware activity that shows no signs of abatement despite increased law enforcement pressure and international cooperation efforts. The data reveals that ransomware operations have become increasingly fragmented, with the decline of individual dominant groups being offset by the proliferation of smaller, more agile operations, many of which leverage ransomware as a service platforms to reduce their operational overhead and technical barrier to entry. Lockbit and its successor variants continue to account for a disproportionate share of victims, but newer groups including DragonForce, RansomHub, and Fog have shown aggressive growth trajectories in recent months. The geographic distribution of victims remains heavily weighted toward North America and Western Europe, though notable increases in targeting of organizations in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East suggest that ransomware operators are expanding their target aperture as traditional markets implement stronger defenses. The healthcare, education, and manufacturing sectors continue to bear a disproportionate burden, with these verticals collectively accounting for approximately 40% of documented victims in April 2026. Average ransom demands have continued to escalate, with multiple incidents in April involving demands exceeding $10 million, and total estimated ransomware-related losses for the month are projected in the hundreds of millions of dollars globally. The 88 active groups figure represents the highest number of concurrent ransomware operations ever recorded, reflecting the democratization of ransomware through builder leaks, affiliate programs, and the availability of initial access brokerage services on underground markets. Video tags. Cybersecurity news, Cybersecurity Today, hacking news, data breach, ransomware, cPanel vulnerability, CVE 2026-41940, sorry ransomware, cPanel sniper exploit, Go ransomware, Cha-Cha 20 encryption, AI 0-day, AI hacking, game change campaign, Quencoder, AI malware, Multi-Terminal, JSOUTFMIT, MITRE ATTNCKAI, Instructure breach, Canvas LMS hack, Shiny Hunters, EdTech data breach, Ants France breach, Microsoft Defender, DG Cert false positive, Certigent Trojan, Certificate Trust, Email bombing, Teams. Phishing, Scattered Spider, Payouts King, UNC 6692, Quick Assist exploit,